Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Doctor. My name is Badru Hisham, and I'm going to present my project titled Effectiveness of Special Voluntary Disclosure Program on Corporate Income Tax in Malaysia. What is Special Voluntary Disclosure Program? First, I'll explain what is tax. Tax is a mandatory monetary fee or any form of levy imposed by a government onto the taxpayer, which is individual or other legal entity, and the money is used to finance multiple government expenses. Any defaults such as tax resistance or tax evasion are punishable by law. The Special Voluntary Disclosure Program, or SVDP, is a Malaysia's government initiative to offer tax amnesty. It is to promote taxpayers to report their real revenue on a voluntary basis with a view to increasing tax collection for the nation's growth. A corporate income tax, or you can call as corporation tax or company tax. It is a direct tax imposed onto the company. Let's go for the introduction. Here is the basic view of tax compliance issue in Malaysia. As you can see, the compliance rate for individual only 15.24% or 2.27 million individuals are paying taxes, while another 33.76% are not paying their taxes, and another 51% are not even registered as a taxpayer. As for the company, out of 1.19 million registered with the CCM, only 16.27% are registered and paying taxes, while another 83%, most of them, are not paying taxes. This is from the Deloitte Tax Service in Berhad in the 2018. So, Voluntary Disclosure Program is a tax pardon program. If an individual or corporate have an unexplained or extraordinary wealth, then better go for voluntary disclosure. There are many ways a government can find out of this wealth being. First, from the internal or third-party information, and second, from means test or capital statement. So here is the difference between SVDP program with the current practice. SVDP program offer lower penalties. What are the existing penalties? If you fail to submit tax return on time, the penalties ranging from 20% to 35% of the tax payable. And if you fail to report the correct income, the penalty for discovery of omission during audit would be up to 100%, or as directed by Director General of Inland Revenue. With the SVDP program, the penalties is between 10% to 15% only, that depending on when you made your disclosure. SVDP time period is between 3 November 2018 until 30 June 2019. It is later than revised and extended until 30 September 2019. Now we go to the problem background. As I mentioned before, SVDP is a Malaysia's government effort to encourage taxpayers to report on a voluntary basis the real revenue. Though this is not the first time Malaysia's government offered tax amnesty. In fact, in 2015 and 2016, they have offered quite a similar program. But it's uncertain how effective they were since there is no study on this matter. And also, there's quite limited information available either from scholarly database or other popular sources regarding tax amnesty in Malaysia. Compared to the other countries that have implemented tax amnesty, there's quite a lot we can find either research paper or study on this matter. This is the research question developed for this study. First, how effective the Special Voluntary Disclosure Program in dealing with corporate income tax evasion and avoidance in Malaysia. Second, what is the relationship between SVDP program introduced and the collection of corporate income tax from Malaysia? And lastly, how does SVDP program can help in expanding future tax growth in Malaysia? Next, we go to the research objective. First is to measure the effectiveness of Special Voluntary Disclosure Program on corporate income tax in Malaysia. And second is to synthesize important trend and behavioral of the taxpayer gathered from SVDP programs such as industry type and demographic associated with SVDP. This is the project aim for this study to investigate the relationship between SVDP program with the number of corporate income tax return as well as increase in corporate income tax collection. This is the project scope of this study. Whilst income tax are imposed to an individual or other legal entity, even company, the focus of the study is limited to corporate income tax only. Corporate income tax is a tax applied to a profit of a company. The significance of the study is, first, study of effectiveness of SVDP program can be a measurement tool to assess the result of the program despite its promotion and cost spent. Second is, this is not the first time Malaysia's government offers tax amnesty. They have offered it before, but no thorough study on that matter. This study can provide an analysis of tax amnesty program in Malaysia. And lastly, this program also can be leading paradigm as Malaysia's government approach in reforming the tax system. Now, let's go to the systematic literature review of voluntary disclosure program or tax amnesty program. Systematic literature review is a structured and documented process for a transparent literature review. This is the flowchart of systematic literature review. There are three phases. The first phase is planning the review. The second is conducting the review, and the third is reporting the result. Now, let's go to the methodology of our SLR. The research question arises, what is the result of voluntary disclosure program on other countries that have implemented? Research keywords and source to be searched is as displayed on the screen. Now, the inclusion and exclusion criteria is, the exclusion is any paper without full text, magazine and discussion, paper and short papers. The inclusion of paper in English and Malay, full text and with keyword and without keywords. Now, we go to conducting a review of our SLR. Out of 255 papers that we have viewed, only 15 papers are selected for our primary studies of research. Then, we go to the next secondary search phase. We found that 13 papers related, and out of total of 28, we finally selected only 14 papers that answering our research question. Now, we go to the analysis and synthesis of our SLR. From 14 papers that have been studied, we review the effectiveness of tax amnesty program implemented in other countries. First, United States. In this paper, it suggests tax amnesty may increase tax evasion, although it is reasonable for a revenue maximizing government as it offered a way to collect revenue, but the question is the fairness of allowing tax evasion to come clean with a very low punishment. Next, we go to Turkey. There are 33 small applications for tax amnesty done in Turkey. In other words, tax amnesty was issued once in every 3 years. This scenario placed taxpayer in the natural expectation. As a result, tax amnesty generally adversely impact tax revenue in Turkey. Next, we go to Indonesia. Indonesia implement tax amnesty program between 2016 and 2017. A study on tax amnesty in 2015 suggests that tax amnesty did not affect the increase of tax revenue. But later, in the study in 2017 and 2018, tax amnesty is proven to improve compliance, additional taxpayer, and increase tax revenue. Next, we go to Nigeria. A study paper on Nigeria's tax amnesty suggests that tax amnesty is effectively increasing the level of tax compliance and thereby increasing Nigeria's revenue from taxes. Next, South Africa. A study paper on South Africa tax amnesty finds that both one-off and permanent voluntary disclosure program have negligible long-term impact on compliance. In addition, a one-off voluntary disclosure program is more efficient in stimulating adherence than a continuous voluntary disclosure program. Next, Russia. Russia stated that as an overall, tax amnesty does not effectively increase profit, and amnesty should not be used as an emergency measure, as it will only stimulate further failure to comply. Next, we move to the methodology of our study. This is the research design for our study. First, we study research idea. Now we study literature review and methodology, and then selecting methodology approach. Then we're collecting data. After that, we're analyzing data. Then evaluation and visualization. After that, preparing a report. Here is the operational framework for the study. It is divided into 4 phases. The deliverable of those phases is, for phase 1, the outcome of previous SVD program in Malaysia and other countries. For phase 2, the deliverable is theoretical relation between SVD and corporate tax evasion rate. Phase 3, evaluation design, the deliverable is visualized and result using Power BI. And lastly, report. In phase 1 study, we study the overview of current Malaysian tax system and tax amnesty that have been implemented in Malaysia. Furthermore, we study the implementation of tax amnesty program in other countries and analyze whether it turned out to be a success or failure. In phase 2, we investigate the benefit, losses, gain, and cost of SVDP to Malaysian tax system. This factor affect directly the effectiveness of such program. Then we do a comparative study and analysis from tax amnesty on other countries. Then we design a theoretical relation between SVD and other factors, as you can see on the screen. In phase 3, evaluation and design, the design hypothesis, as you see on the previous slide, are tested using Spearman rank order correlation coefficient to find whether SVDP has a beneficial correlation with those factors. The decision rule is reject null hypothesis if p-value of correlation coefficient is less than 0.05. As an example, the null hypothesis is there is no significant relationship between SVDP and new corporate income taxpayer registration in Malaysia. The alternative hypothesis is there is significant relationship between SVDP and new corporate income taxpayer registration in Malaysia. The strength of correlation are determined by the table as you can see on the screen. In Chapter 4, report, in this phase, all the information and result gathered from phase 1 until phase 3 is gathered for a report and proper documentation. Here is the instrument requirement, hardware details and software details as you can see on the screen. Next, we move to result and finding. As this SVD program is still running and will end in 30 September 2019, there is no complete data for the study yet. But here on the screen is the result expected I gather from the sample data of SVD program. For example, as you can see, there is a strong positive and significant relationship between the implementation of SVD program and the rate of new corporate income taxpayer registration in Malaysia. Based on the value above, we reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis. Therefore, there is a significant relationship between the implementation of the SVD program and the rate of new corporate income taxpayer registration. Now, for the descriptive analysis of the study, as there is no complete data for the study yet, there is no proper visualization I can show. But here is the idea. The visualization of new corporate taxpayer registration by industry type, the visualization of distribution of new corporate taxpayer registration by demography, and some other examples as you can see on the screen. So, for the conclusion, the implementation of SVD is successfully effective as it increased the compliance rate of corporate income tax in Malaysia. Furthermore, several recommendations to conduct a successful tax amnesty based on the previous work is as follows. In terms of duration, it is not recommended for a government to have a long-term tax amnesty program as it will ruin the credibility of the government. And second is, in terms of frequency, it is not recommended for the government to launch the too frequent tax amnesty program. However, this recommendation is suggested to be studied further in the future. That's all from me. Thank you.